What if the difference between a forgettable talk and a career defining moment isn't more polish, but more presence? Today on the BizBlend podcast, listeners, with your host Sana, we are chasing TED style perfection. We're asking a braver question. How do founders who dread rewatching themselves become speakers people can't look away from? Our guest, Tom Elliott, corporate event host, comedy magician, and public speaking coach, has lived on both sides of the stage light. He helps leaders move from showman to speaker, less shtick, more substance, less anxiety, more audience connection. So, if you pitch, lead, or teach, this is your upgrade, listeners. So, let's get practical, human, and a little bit brave. So, Tom, welcome to the show, and it is an absolute honor to have you here with us.
Hi, Sana. It's great to be with you. Thank you so much.
Ah, superb. Okay. Okay. Tom, let's try to first understand, the persona versus presence debate here. Now, you help leaders build a likable stage persona. How do we do that without slipping into, like a mask, like a performance mask that could feel fake, like a facade?
Sure, really good question. So my
Mm.
background is, as you mentioned in your introduction, that I came from doing comedy and magic, and I still do that. And I like comedy and tricks, entertainment. And
Mm.
the thing about entertainment is that when I was back at school, I got into acting and kind of musical theatre. When I started
Mhm.
doing comedy and magic, I soon realised that I was actually trying. I didn't want to be another character. I wanted to be
Mhm.
myself, but that needed to work within the context of doing comedy and magic. And it's a little bit like when people go public speaking, they
Mm.
quite often they get up on stage and it's like they feel the pressure, whether consciously or subconsciously, they feel
Mm.
the pressure to become someone, maybe more extroverted,
Mm.
uh, maybe more interesting or whatever, or more charismatic. What
Mm.
what actually we need to do is become more of ourselves, but turn it up a notch. So here's what I do when I'm coaching people in public
Mhm.
speaking. I say to them, what were the compliments that you have been given throughout your life? Not about what you can do, but about who you are, your characteristics, your personality. And so to give you an
Mhm.
example, Sana, when I was young, right through to the present day, actually, if I'm
Uh-huh.
with friends, particularly if we've been overnight somewhere, let's say we've been on holiday, or let's say when I was younger, it was if we went to a youth camp of some sort, or a school
Mhm.
trip or something like that, and we'd stay, and people would say to me, normally at breakfast, they'd say, "Tom, you have so much like energy and positivity for this time of the day," or they
Mhm.
refer to me as some positive, like energetic, kind of enthusiastic kind of person. Now,
Mm.
don't get me wrong, Sana, I'm human being as well, um,
Yeah.
but this was a compliment that has come back to me through and through, like regularly throughout my life, and I've used that, and I've said, okay, so that's how people see me. But also, the thing to note is, quite often, what people say about us in those situations is what they like
Mhm.
about us, and so
Mm.
what I say to people is think about those compliments that people have given you throughout your life, not about what you've
Okay.
done, but about who you are, and use
Mhm.
that to frame who you are on stage. So when I jump onto stage,
Mm.
I am all those things. I'm pretty
Mhm.
positive, but I'm also
Mhm.
enthusiastic, I'm energetic, and I come not as some persona, not as some character of some kind. Of course, you can do that in comedy, but in this situation, I come on as myself,
Uh-huh.
but I turn up the positive characteristics that people like. I turn it up by 10%, and I'd encourage anyone to do the same.
Mm. Mm. I love that, Tom, because it speaks about simplicity and like being in your own element, being yourself, as you said.
Absolutely.
Um, and Tom, it's actually a very personal question because I identify myself as, let's say ambivert, that if situation demands or if, I'm given a comfortable space, I am in my own element.
Yep.
However, most of the times I'm, like I'm more of a quiet person in there,
Sure.
somewhere sitting down in the corner. And a lot of founders or entrepreneurs, they would like to be behind the stage. They would say that I perform better when I am behind the stage, behind the curtains. So is it necessary that to be a good speaker or a good public speaker, you need to be extrovert and performative, carry yourself physically, and like that?
No, I don't think you do.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I think you can be an introvert, and but the thing is, it will be a little bit more exhausting for you. That's the thing to
Mm.
bear in mind. So I'm a bit like you. I sit slap bang in the middle between introvert and extrovert. Uh,
Uh-huh.
so I love my job, and for two reasons. Number one is I get up on stage and I get all of the extrovert isms that I need. Right, I get all of the energy from people, the laughter, the fun, the interaction. I get all of it uh, in a massive lump sum, if you like, and then I get into my car and I've got a 3 hour drive home on my own. And sometimes I extend it just because I'm enjoying that time on myself. And and so I'm slap bang in the middle. And what you need to learn to do is, as an introvert, is
Mhm.
just to, it's again, it's not about being someone else. It's not about trying to be an extrovert, but it's knowing
Mhm.
that in order to captivate an audience, you're going to have to turn up that notch quite a lot on who you are. You need to turn up
Mhm.
that energy, turn up that um all of the enthusiasm you have for what you do. You need to make sure that conveys to the very back of the room and the person sat at the
Mhm.
back. And so it will just be a bit more exhausting for you. But it doesn't mean
Mhm.
that you need to be full on extrovert, loving all the attention, love it. It just needs to, for that moment when you're giving your keynote, you need to give it
Mhm.
all that you've got.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Tom, comedy is subjective. Um, People maybe in some in particular country or region, they will find a joke connecting, resonating with them, and maybe people in some other place they wouldn't connect with that.
Sure.
How do you draw the parallels between the world of comedy and stage performance with public speaking, that too in a very entrepreneurial arena?
Sure, but I think there's things we can learn. I think comedians, and I say this as one, so this might sound a little bit arrogant, but I think
Uh-huh.
comedians are some of the best communicators that we have in society. Um,
Yeah.
I think they're better than many politicians. They're better than,
Mm.
sometimes better than people who specialize in public speaking. And
Yeah.
there's a reason for that. And that is that the job of a comedian, whether you're doing risky material that could offend or that could or whatever, or whether you're completely clean and family friendly or whatever, the job of
Mhm.
a comedian is to connect with their audience. Uh,
Yeah.
and to go with the flow. And there's two things. When you start out in comedy, you have to win over every audience uh, that you perform for, and so you have to earn their trust, earn their attention, earn their likability of you.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot that you learn in that which many people don't get, and I'd say a lot of it is instinctive. You can only learn it really by getting up on stage, doing it, failing in public, and then doing it again.
Yeah.
And it's a challenging thing. Where do I draw the parallels? Well,
Mhm.
as a speaker, you want to do exactly the same thing. You want to connect with people. You want them to like you. You want to draw them in
Mm.
creatively, probably. Uh,
Mm.
and so, what you need to do, a kind of strategic thing of doing that is, first of all, you just need to get out there and speak a lot, and you need to
Mhm.
learn to feel the room. So, as someone, I do this all the time. Every week, I'm on stage somewhere, here, there, and everywhere, and
Uh-huh.
what I can tell pretty much as I'm stood in the wing before I go on stage or stood at the side of the room, I can
Mhm.
tell by the vibe of the room whether it's going to be an easy gig,
Yeah.
and therefore they're going to be eating out of my hands, or whether I'm going to struggle, because I can tell that there's an energy in the room. If people are laughing, if the room is loud with an atmosphere, I can tell
Mm.
it's going to be a good gig. If it's not, if it's quiet and there's nothing really happening and people are feeling a bit awkward and maybe they're sat around big tables and they're not really in, then I know it's going to be a bit of a struggle because
Yeah.
the vibe isn't there. Let me tell you a story. There used to be a British comedian here called
Uh-huh.
Ken Dodd. I don't know if you've ever come across Ken Dodd.
I've heard. Yeah.
He's very well known. He's particularly known because he
Mhm.
used to perform in theatres and then carry on about 3 hours past his end time. So
Mhm.
he used to go well into the middle of the night before he finished his show, and people used
Mhm.
to love it. Um, but he was known for this. He used to keep a map of where different jokes of his worked. He did like one-liners,
Oh.
and he used to keep a map of all the one-liners and where they worked in the country. So he knew that this one-liner might work down south, but that one-liner works better up north. Uh, and he went to that much detail. And that's about learning to adapt to an audience.
Exactly.
In his head, he knew if I'm going down the south of the country, these are
Uh-huh.
these are the jokes I can get away with and work. If I'm going up north of the country, then these jokes aren't going to work as well, but these ones will. Uh, and I think in the same way, speakers can learn to adapt. I mean, that's extreme, but speakers can learn to say, okay, who are my audience? How are they engaging? Are they
Exactly.
engaging with stories? Are they engaging with the creative prop that I've brought? What are they engaging with? How are they relating to me? And how can I adapt my presentation accordingly?
Wow. That sounds, that yeah, definitely it requires a lot of work. And I think comedy is comedy and public speaking, it sounds quite difficult and overwhelming for any first timer. But I also would agree with you, Tom, in there that, when you get to do gigs or maybe a lot of public speaking experiences, then you kind of get an intuition, or kind of get an idea that what kind of response will I get from this particular audience, or the people over there in the auditorium. And I think sometimes, it really, really, I think I've seen comedians doing crowd work. Sometimes even their jokes are not landing, crickets. But
Yeah.
I think it's kind of the, that what kind of makes it solid and gives you those learning experiences to adapt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way to get good at comedy, and I would say the same is for keynote speaking, is learning to fail in public and get up and go again. You have to be resilient enough to fail
Hmm.
miserably, know that you failed, live through the failure. I've got so many stories to tell of this, Sana. We'd be here
Hmm.
all day, but you have to learn to accept the failure and learn from it and move on. Sometimes it's your fault. Sometimes you could have tweaked something. Other times it's just the room and just the setup that you've been speaking in.
Totally, totally. And also, Tom, you talk about delivering key messages creatively. Um, is there a framework for turning a dense idea into a memorable moment without trivializing it?
Absolutely. So in my coaching, I call it showman to speaker. And
Okay.
if you want to find out more, you can find it at hellotom.co.uk/showman. And what I do is I teach people. We go through a bit of a framework. Number one is showcasing your character. It's about thinking about who you are. Number two is
Mhm.
about writing your script. We'll come back to that in just a minute. And then learning how to rehearse and practice. And then finally putting it all together and acting as a kind of director for your performance or your keynote. And if I just go back to the writing a script, there's a few
Yeah.
things that we look at here, and uh, whatever your message, however important, however inspirational, however motivational, however moving that message might
Mhm.
be, you need to grab the attention of an audience, and more and more uh, attention uh, rates are slipping away faster than ever, right? So
Mhm.
people's attention is shorter and shorter and shorter, and what we need to do is learn how to captivate them. So I start to get people thinking about, well, how could you? So the obvious one, when people begin a keynote, the first words are always the same. It's "Thank you so much for having me here. I'm
Yeah.
really delighted to be." At this point, the audience doesn't really give a monkeys, right? They don't care at all.
Yeah.
They're beginning to yawn. They're beginning to check their watches, their phones. They're doodling on their pads.
Yeah.
What if you could begin? And I'm not saying those pleasantries aren't important. They are important, but
Mhm. They
what
are.
if you
Yeah.
could bring that in just a little bit later? What if you could start your presentation with the opening of a story that would really grab the attention. You've walked onto stage, the audience applause has died down, and you start
Mhm.
with a story or a hook line that's going to immediately grab their attention and capture the idea. Let me tell you a little story.
Yeah.
When I first started in doing comedy and magic, I went
Mhm.
on a weekend course. I was really young at the time. I went on
Mhm.
a weekend course to learn how to do street entertainment. So in London, we have a place called Covent Garden, and
Uh-huh.
you'll quite often see performers performing on the street, and sometimes magicians do, right? And what they'll do
Mhm.
is they'll spend 10 minutes trying to attract a crowd. So trying to stop people in their shopping to stop and stand and watch them. And so
Mhm.
I went to Wales for a weekend course to learn how to do this, how to attract a crowd, how to ask for money at the end, because that's what buskers do. That's what the street performers do. They ask for money, and people go and give
Mhm.
that spare change. I've seen it in London. People go and give hundreds of people go and give £5 notes, £10 notes uh, at the end of these street performances because these guys have polished how they do it. And on this street
Mhm.
performance course, uh, at the end of the course, we had to go into central Wales in the town centre, and we had to perform our own little street show. And
Okay.
so what I did is I was really good at attracting a crowd. I had my little method where people would stop and they would build and build. And at the time, I was doing a straitjacket escape. If you've ever seen a straitjacket, it was a regulation straitjacket that I would then
Mhm.
put on, and the zips would be done up. Sorry, not the zips. The
Yeah.
padlocks were done at the back, or and I would escape. And I'd do this in the middle of the street. And
Wow.
obviously, doing a straitjacket escape is going to get attention, isn't it? Uh,
Yeah.
and it did. Every time I put it on, as the straps would be being done up at the back, people would gather, and there would be 50 people, 100 people, 150 people, as they stopped to watch me escape from this straitjacket. But the tutor of the course came up to me when we were working on it, and he said, "Tom," he said, "you want to get as many people in the room, oh sorry, not in the room, in around surrounding you by the time you do that straitjacket. So here's what to do." And
Mhm.
he said, "Tom, at the beginning, you're going to do the straitjacket at the end of your street performance. So, but at
Mhm.
the very beginning of that street performance, I want you to shout and show about the straitjacket." Because he said, if people
Mhm.
hear the word straitjacket, if people see you waving a straitjacket around, they're going to come and they're going to watch. So he
Mm.
said, right from the beginning, show the straitjacket, wave it in the air, shout about it so that it captures people's attention. Then do something else, but keep referring to that straitjacket. Every now and then, just mention that you're going to do a straitjacket escape in a moment. Uh, and every time
Mm.
you mention it, every time you show it, are stopping, people are gathering. And then I
Mm.
got to the straitjacket and I put it on. Someone does up the straps behind me, and
Mhm.
Mario, the tutor, said, "Tom, this is the point at which you now need to ask for money. You haven't escaped from it yet, but you're stood there strapped up in a straitjacket." He said, "This is the point at which you ask people to give their money because no one's going to leave until you've escaped from that straitjacket. So if you're asking now, this you've got their full attention." And so that's what I did. And then I would do my straitjacket escape, and everyone would go wild. And of course, that in itself causes more intrigue about what's just happened. Uh,
Wow.
Now, here's the thing. What if you translate that to your keynote speech or your presentation? What could you do at the very end that is going to wow people? And then work backwards from there and think, well, how can I start my presentation referring to
Mhm.
that? And it might include a prop. I encourage people to think creatively. Is there an
Mhm.
intriguing, creative, slightly strange prop that you could use or you could have on stage that right as people come into the venue or right as people sit down, they begin thinking, why is there a cardboard box on stage? Why is there a statue on stage? Why is there a wine glass on a table like what
Mm.
people asking questions right from the beginning
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
refer to that throughout your keynote and mention it and then tie it in and bring it to land at the very end when you explain what that's about. Uh,
Mhm.
because what you've done is you've captured their attention,
Yes.
held it all the way through because they want to know what this is all about, and then you've kind of given them their answer. Uh, you've given what they were looking for the whole way through, and that is to figure out what this is all about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, you do kind of a crowd work. You ask questions, you interact with the audience in there. Then you kind of keep some highlights with you, and then you kind of come full circle back, and connect everything with that. So I think that's the kind of a journey that you are actually traveling with the audience.
Absolutely, absolutely. So important.
Mm. Hmm. Wow. And Tom, before we wrap up, what's actually the four-step arc that you use to move someone from performing at to communicating with? Like how long does it take? Does it depend on the audience? Does it depend on the topic, or or the skill of the speaker to captivate?
Sure. So it's a whole mix, and it kind of depends on the person and how much you want to dig into it and where you're at already. I mean, I offer kind of a 1 day all intensive where we spend the day working on all of this in 1 day. But equally, you might want ongoing support on this. So we might do the 1 day intensive, and then I offer like an ongoing support system where we can refine some of these things, and I can watch some presentations that I then help you critique, and you watch back and you think, okay, what can I do to enhance the character side or the prop or the creativity, and so it can be a mixture. But the basically what we're looking for is your character and your persona on stage. Is it fully you but just turned up a notch? Is it kind of authentic to you
Mhm.
but fully? And are you using that to build rapport and to build trust with that audience? Is it? And then you look at the script, which is thinking,
Mhm.
okay, and I say never write a script, because you can write a script to begin with when
Mm.
you're preparing, but ultimately it has to come from within. So you might prepare using a script, but then I say don't memorize it, internalize it. So it becomes like a
Ah.
conversation that you have every weekend with your family.
Mm.
You don't want to sound like you're just reading and delivering a script that you've pre-written. You want to sound like you're just passionately talking or communicating about something that is important to you. Uh, and so we look at the script, we look at how we can introduce callbacks and a through line so that people don't just walk away and forget what you've said, but they go and take
Yeah.
action on what you've said. Then we look about how you rehearse. Rehearsing can be really hard, speaking to a brick
Mm.
wall. So how do you do that? How do you keep going? How do you internalize it, don't, rather than memorize it? And then
Mhm.
finally, we look at videos of you performing. We look at
Mm.
past experiences of you doing it, and we go, right, what can we learn? How can we improve? How can we direct this performance or this keynote so that you become the very best you can be?
Yeah. And this was universal, in every of the public speaking, videos, or, all those learning resources. I think one particular thing that I have also, and this is something that, I also kind of do not adhere to, but I think it's very, very important, is that you have to be kind of a critique of yourself. You have to
Sure.
kind of see yourself speaking filler words, or your body language, or what kind of expressions you are giving, something like that. So I think, yeah, that is necessary.
Absolutely. Try not to be harsh on yourself, but try to be uh, open to critique, or be ready for feedback from people that you trust and people that are ahead of you. Absolutely, really important.
Definitely. And I think that once again goes back to, the persona versus presence that we began with.
Absolutely.
So, Tom, if our listeners, they would like to connect with you, especially all the founders and entrepreneurs who are listening, they would like to be the best public speakers out there. What would be the easiest way to connect with you?
Sure. So all you need to do is go to hellotom.co.uk/showman, or just go to hellotom.co.uk and you'll see that there's presentation coaching there on the menu. And I can do that online as well. We can do the day intensive and the ongoing support online. So I can support people wherever they're based in the world. So thank you so much, Sana.
Oh, wow. Global. Okay. So, listeners, what I'll do is I'll have all these links mentioned in the show notes for all of you to connect with Tom. And if I can, say something before we end up here, I think we started with a myth that great speakers, good public speakers, they're born. But Tom just handed us the quieter truth. Great speakers are built in reps, micro habits, and messages that serve the listener first. So, if you lead teams, if you pitch investors, or you teach ideas, your next level isn't louder, it is clarity, clearer. Take one of Tom's 10, ship it this week, and watch what shifts. More eye contact, more inbound invites, less filler words, more we heard you. Until then, this is BizBlend. I'm your host, Sana, and I encourage all of you to speak with courage, design for memory, and meet your audience where they actually live inside the moment. See you next time.